This is a Podco original.
What do you think about her stealing the money? Would you do it?
Yeah.
My drug when I was younger was attention.
You know what I mean?
Are you afraid to fall in love?
Yeah. So she is getting up there to do her speech on that episode, and I guess she might have been having a little trouble, or the way she was presenting it, or this, that, or other, and she's like, they were laughing. Like they were full on laughing while I was up there trying to give my speech and do my thing. No, I'm actually scared to watch this all back.
I was
like
so
I am
excited.
terrified.
Oh, right, because of also it's a
yeah.
lot.
And hello again.
Hello, Lindsey Shaw.
So I used to have this self-harm thing around flossing.
What?
I would floss.
We just went straight
Listen.
in there.
So on those nights when I would be railing lines of cocaine, I would.
Welcome back to the show, guys.
I would floss my teeth. I'm not kidding. For probably 4 to 6 hours.
No
Yeah,
way.
like compulsive
least you had
harm,
good breath.
bleeding. Like
Yeah.
gums would be bleeding, but it got to the point where like I think something got in there, and a growth happened on the inside of my lip because of how much trauma I was doing to this one area of my gums.
And it only happened then?
And it happened while I was working.
Have you ever?
I had to go on set
No.
like this, and then
And
I
did it
just
look
thought,
like a coleslaw?
oh my god,
Coles-
it looked. I sounded different.
Did
It's
you-
a
I
it's
just
a
said
horror movie
coleslaw.
called No One Lives, and who would name something that?
Yeah.
No One Lives.
Did people think it was a coleslaw?
No, people thought this is a weird druggy thing.
They thought it was a coleslaw?
Yeah.
Coleslaw.
They thought it was coleslaw right on my lip. A coleslaw.
Have you ever had what coleslaw?
Have I ever had coleslaw? Yes. I've had coleslaw with a cold sore. My cold sore actually requested coleslaw.
I've never had one, and that's my biggest fear.
Are you serious?
Like, you need to have other fears. My biggest fear is just kissing someone on set and then getting a coleslaw.
How many times? Slaw. How many times have you given somebody a cold slaw?
I've never given anyone because I've never had one.
But isn't it like, what is it? Like like a virus that's dormant in you or something, and then it
Yeah.
comes up?
Yeah, and you can get it from sharing drinks with people.
Gosh.
But it's so normalized now, like no one cares.
Yeah.
You know?
I've definitely had cold sores a couple times. A lot of them were just like trauma induced from like stuff I was doing to my face though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You don't think it was like you made out with someone that had one?
I would have had to make out with somebody for that to,
And
you know what I mean?
and
I wasn't making out when I was on my drugs.
At all?
No.
When so you were
I probably was with like a steady boyfriend at that time.
so you were celibate recently.
Oh yeah.
For how long?
I'm talking 5 years. 4
Choice?
years. Yes.
You decided no pee-pee.
No PP. Not only that, you know what? Who was offering me that big D? The big drugs. Okay.
So you were getting
I was getting the D from the drugs. Yeah. And then, so when you're trying to have sex on drugs, at least for me, it would feel like I had to throw up immediately because there's nothing in your stomach.
Yeah.
You're going like this. You haven't slept.
You're
Like
not
no part of
connected
your
to it.
nervous system is
Right.
okay. Then you get punctured down there, right? And so now you have all this crap
Punctured? Who
moving
you
in and
having
out of you.
sex with?
And like literally it makes you feel like you're going to throw up. So like, no, when I was drunk, would always get nauseous. Like I'm not somebody who can mess around on those things.
Right, but if you haven't had sex choice for 5 years, you also have been on drugs for a while.
Right, for 2.5 years. So you're not supposed to do it for the first year.
You're not supposed to.
Not supposed to be involved with
Why?
anybody, anything, because you are in such a vulnerable place, and usually relationship is very tied in with character defects that you are trying to also become sober from, or
Right.
at least like put things in place to where you're not going to treat this new person or relationship like
Yeah.
you would have even if you're a dry drunk, right? Like
Yeah.
even if you're not drinking, but you're still dry on those character defects.
Right.
So that was that. Then I think like I really was waiting for my desire to come back to that. Like
Right.
I had no desire. My
But
brain, my
we
body.
talked about it. Do you not think it's because antidepressants or whatever medication that you've said that you take, doesn't that dull the feeling?
I think that, and I also just think just rewiring this all together, like
Right.
remembering what pleasure actually was. I didn't have a good handle on my sex life before I started doing drugs, so I didn't even know
Right.
what I liked, wanted, desired. Like I had to sort of like whet this appetite
Yeah.
from the beginning.
I just passed out. What? maybe you're not having sex because you're doing that while you're in the bedroom. I'm like, maybe that's the problem. I've always been a really sexual person.
I feel that from you.
Yeah.
And I love that. That's why I thought you were Scorpio.
Yeah, Leo and Scorpio is a pretty
Right.
similar, and I'm scared of Scorpios though. Leos are like Scorpios without the stinger.
Right.
You know?
You bring all the fire.
Yeah, and they'll
none of
be
the
your friend
sting.
forever and love you forever.
Yeah.
But I think now I don't feel this way. I'm always been really into sex, and very sex positive. But I think in the beginning, because I was very bullied and an overweight kid, and then I was an overweight teen. I think now if I had more weight on me, it wouldn't have been such a big deal as it was back then. And I was teased a lot. That when I ultimately did lose the weight, I got a lot of attention, and that to me was a drug. So when you say like, what's your drug? My drug when I was younger was attention. Was men wanting to be with me. So there was like an addictive quality, and there was so much euphoria that came from being wanted and being sexually desired that I needed it. I needed it for so long, and then. Even when I met my husband at 22, like I still needed other people to like want me. And that's just a defect in my own brain about feeling like my self-worth is only there if I'm desired. And then as you age and you have kids, I don't get looked at as much, and I'm not considered like, what I don't think as like sexy. So you lose a part of that, and then you got to figure out like, well, then what am I without that?
What do you feel about this like loss of like sexual privilege or pretty privilege or like whatever like sexy privilege, I would say? Like
I put so much weight on that for so long that it's actually really cool that I've developed other aspects of myself. Like I think that I've grown in my brain. I feel like I've grown as a person that I just don't really care. I find prettiness and beauty is great, but it's kind of so banal. I find it so boring actually. People talking about beauty all the time. It just does not interest me anymore. And maybe that comes with getting older, and you're younger than me, so maybe you're still in that and feeling like, oh my goodness, am I losing part of that? But as you get older, it's just like I just want to be happy, and I want my husband to want me. I want him to find me sexually desirable, but I don't need other people to. But yeah, do I want to look good? Do I want to, I've had Botox once. Do I want to continue it? Sure. Maybe will I get, an eye lift when I'm older, or like a neck lift? Maybe. But I hope that that's also coupled with a strong desire of liking myself, and then just being like, and I also want to look fucking good.
Right.
Instead of it just being about looking good.
Right.
Because even someone like Shay Mitchell, who's so beautiful, she's going to get older.
Yeah.
We're all going to get older. Lucy's going to get older. All these characters are just, we look back at it and they look so doe-eyed, and that, we've all got that cute fat cheeks.
I know.
And they look so young, and our jawlines are so strong, and that's great. But like, I don't find any connection to 22-year-olds and like that sort of pretty, I just find no desire in it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like to like think about it. But yeah, sex to me like now is I've always been a very sensual person. I feel like sex to me is the closest I'm ever going to get to a human being. It's my most vulnerable state. So after I've had sex with my husband, I am so connected to him. And if we don't have sex for a period of time, I just don't like him.
Yeah.
Like, and it's not his fault. I just have
Yeah.
I'm just like, oh, you're just you're in my space and you're annoying, and it's just, there's nothing vulnerable about just being roommates.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right. Wow.
But have you in sex learned what you like personally, or have you always left it up to another person?
I've always left it up to another person.
Yeah, that's the problem.
I started dabbling with somebody recently, and I am like changed in that regard. And I feel really, really vulnerable because I've never felt so changed in that regard. Of like, wow, that's what it likes. That's what it's like to like feel touched and want that. You know what I mean?
Feel good.
Want it for myself, not to try to trap this person or to try to, hook this person or this, that, or other. I was communicative. And everything that I feel in my life has gotten better. That all directed to my intimate life, which I didn't know until recently. And I think I was trying to just lose my virginity when I had it. I was just trying to lose it just for the sake of being able to say so in conversation. And it was an incredible experience. Don't get me wrong. But I started having sex before I knew why I wanted to have sex.
Wow, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's also how I feel about kind of acting. Like I felt like I was asked to create long before I even had the inkling to do that. You know what I'm saying?
So much of your life you feel like has not been on your own timeline.
Yes. Because as much as I could have come out here and done it, and yes, you are good at whatever stimuli is in front of you. I was also a good kid and I wanted to make it work, right? And whatever you're good at, that doesn't mean like that's what your thing is. But I've always tried to just be as good as I can at what somebody else was putting forth, right? And so when it comes to like your sex life, that turned into just like this very over the top, sort of embarrassing performance of sex, right? And you have no satisfaction. Like you don't even remember the feeling of being touched because you're so dissociated from where you fucking are, you know?
Right.
And then like recently it's just been like intoxicating. It's so much less like, yeah, get in there. And this is what I thought it was. It's, oh my gosh, like, whoa, I really feel this. And it's like soft and real. And let me say about this. Cause like, wow, that feels good. Da, da, da. First time I've ever, I mean, you know what I mean?
Are you afraid to fall in love?
Yeah. I mean, I think I have a healthy nervousness around it. I think
You want it?
I'm in the middle of falling in love with myself. And yeah, I want it. I think the commitment and that consistency every day that you talk about, like for 17 years, that scares me. That scares me. Is just learning how not to give up on not only myself, but like then in relationship with another person. That's still like a very big character defect of mine. And I don't want to break down a relationship so much that it takes on damage itself. Like I guess I'm just really nervous about getting back in relationship and being.
I mean, long-term relationships, people glamorize it and they think that it's always roses. But I always say to people, the only way to make a long-term relationship work is to keep falling in love. Because you kind of fall out of love sometimes.
Right.
And there's so many circumstances and you bring other little people into the mix and finances and health and mental health and all those things. And you don't always love each other the way that you used to, but there are things that connect you by falling in love again and again and again and again. And I've had many times where I'm just like, this is just too hard. And then I fall in love again. And that is the only way I feel like relationships that last this long sort of work.
Yeah. Choice, effort, like, wow. Wow. So how have you like dealt with coming so close to just being like, not giving up, but just that mentality of like, fuck, this is hard?
I think as much as I can say in the moment, I'm done. There's like a deep grounding force that is unshakable between us that we're never gonna split up. And I think I know, it's the knowing, and I know it. But in the moment, the brain, the monkey brain is just thinking about all these things that the other person's doing. But here's the thing, Sean and I love very differently. And the way we receive love is very different. So I receive love through affection because that to me, going back to my childhood, is how I received love and also like how I felt wanted being a kid that was so teased. And I don't like giving things to me and actions don't really make me feel loved because I was a child actor. So people would give me shit all the time. They would like make my, here's a coffee and here's your this and here's your that. So I don't receive it the same way. He gives love by giving, like doing things for me. Getting gas in the car, making my bed for me. But to me, it's just another thing that somebody else could just do or I could just do. Whereas, so we've had to learn each other's love languages, which is and he's a Capricorn and I'm a Leo, and they don't really work. But they can.
Fire and earth.
Fire and earth. But then sometimes fire needs earth or they will explode. And if earth doesn't have fire, they'll just stay stagnant.
Yeah. But then sometimes you get scorched earth.
Yeah.
Heyo,
that's not great.
Yeah, what's so funny, I'm a Leo rising, so I think maybe a Leo moon. So I feel like, and I feel like that's maybe why we mesh too.
Well, should we talk about the episode
I guess.
here? I guess.
guess.
The Pretty Little Liars episode. Should we do 8 and 9 since we were talking to Brant and we had last week? And we didn't even talk about 8.
Brant didn't even bring it up. Weird.
Weirdo.
Anyway, I guess we'll pick up the slack, Brant. Anyway, so number 8, please do talk about me when I'm gone.
Yep. Do you watch these episodes and you're like, fuck, when am I going to get on?
No.
It's like, when is it my scene?
No, I'm actually scared to watch this all back.
I'm
like
so
I am
excited.
terrified.
Oh, right, because of also.
It's
a lot.
Just reliving all like those moments and like just wanting another narrative so bad at this point in my life and still not being far enough out of that one to totally have something else. You know what I mean?
Or you could shift the narrative and say, wow, look at how strong I was in the mix of falling apart.
Yeah.
Like you had the falling apart and you showed up.
Yeah.
And that is strength. It's all just the way you put it into a message, right?
Right.
Instead of going, oh, look at what I fucked up or what I could have fucked up. Look at how you actually kept going. And also look at yourself and give yourself a hug.
Right. No, you're so right. You're so right. Yeah.
The young you go, I love you.
I love you.
I'm sorry. And you know what? You took drugs because it was the only way you knew how to cope.
Yeah.
Because there was no other choice for you in the moment. And actually you chose that because you were trying to stay alive from the thoughts that you didn't want to have to deal with.
Mm-hmm.
So they were a means for something for you.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I appreciate
$250
that.
for my
Oh, all right, absolutely.
yeah.
I'll Venmo you.
Good. I don't have Venmo, PayPal.
What is that? Anyway, people are weird having one or the other.
Yeah.
Like either some people like are not allowed to use PayPal. Like it's a weird thing.
PayPal is just so antiquated, and I just love that you don't charge a fee. Venmo not charge a fee?
Venmo. This doesn't matter. Let's move on.
Doesn't matter.
Okay, so we get the famous line in number 8. It's immortality, my darlings. That is a pretty big line that plays throughout the rest of the show. We have that super long flashback where on the beach, where then, first of all, I can't believe she's 13. I look at her on that beach and in that beach chair,
looks
Sasha.
17.
Oh my God.
She does not look, she actually looks older than
all the girls.
Than Lucy.
Right.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Wild.
And then the greatest part of this, we get a close up on Jenna and you actually take your sunglasses off. You get to see her beautiful eyes.
And it was the worst night of my life the night before. I was so anxious. I used to have sleep anxiety. So I would get very nervous that I wouldn't wake up at 5 a.m. So I couldn't fall asleep. So I ended up falling asleep. I was so anxious, took a quarter of a Xanax which I don't take at all, but I did then. I took a quarter of a Xanax at 3 a.m. in the morning and it kicked in at 4:30 and I had to be on set at 5. So when you see that scene, I was beyond it. I could not stay awake.
You're not pulling a Marilyn and having your eyes on focus on camera, and they were right in there for that. Like, it was your like closest thing yet. But your eyes just come out and it's like, Pacha.
Yeah, I was so anxious.
Wow. That sucks because that's the one time you got to emote and like show your.
I know. But I was just like, the whole time I was just like, stay awake. I remember that. But that's the thing about these shows is people just don't know.
Monster.
And then I was like right at the end. I was like falling asleep, sitting in my chair, and then they're like, Jenna, and I woke up. Was I wearing swimwear?
No. I think you were still in black.
I was always in black.
You're always in black.
Yeah.
Okay, and so then we the other thing in this one, the Marin money problems start.
Oh yes.
That is.
What do you think about her stealing the money? Would you do it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, no. I mean, yes, I would. If I was in a situation like that, I can't say that I.
And you'd pay it back.
Yeah.
Do you think her intention is to pay it back? But I mean, isn't everyone's intention to pay money back and then just don't?
My friend, who has taught me more about money than I've ever known, is just like good faith payments. I don't think I could ever leave somebody in the lurch knowing I had taken the money.
Yeah.
Like if I really needed it in a life or death situation, I think obviously like I would take care of this and then take care of that bridge after. But I always try to pay my debts back, even if it's taken me a long time to pay somebody off.
Yeah, I'd agree.
Yeah.
I never want to be in debt
I
with someone.
never want money to be hanging out there. that is somebody's livelihood. And for whatever you agree or disagree with, it's a black and white fact. Like money is money.
What is your relationship with money? Do you respect it? Do you?
So here's the thing. So in my chart, house number 2, the house of money, has a stellium in it, 3 or more planets, right? These 3 planets, Saturn, Neptune, and Uranus,
Of course.
they all have different ideas about money.
Oh.
So they're all floating around and they're like, hey, money is super important. It's what you need. It's the non-negotiable. The other one's like, money.
Who cares?
Who cares? Like, chill.
Yeah.
The other one's like, it'll always come. Don't
So
worry
do you
about
feel
it.
all 3?
Yes. I've always felt all 3. I've always felt on my own with money. I've never felt like there is anybody waiting in the wings to, you know what I mean, to help me out. And that's, that is what it is. I mean, sometimes it's even me helping people out. So money has always, but yet money has hurt me the most in my life because it ruined the relationship I have with my mom. And at a certain point I was like, why did this all blow up? Like for nothing, for money,
Is it because you lent her money?
It was just a money management situation, you know what I mean? That just wasn't right, and that I didn't.
Oh, that's right. She didn't manage your money.
I didn't turn and look at it for, you know what I mean, for a long time, and I should have. So money, I guess, is like I've started to care about it less. It's not security, but it is in this world a little bit,
Especially when you're alone.
Yeah.
With,
And it's
like making your own money for you.
yeah, exactly. And especially if like you have any kind of dependent in your adult life, you know? So
Do you feel like you deserve it? Like a lot of money? Do you feel like $5 million you deserve that money?
I do deserve that money because whatever I have, I give. Whenever I have money, I want to give. Whenever I have this, that, like, I like to give. Money to me is only valuable if it's still in motion, right? Like when I've had the littlest money I've ever had is when I give the most away to like homeless people. I don't know why, right? Like it just lets you be a little more free with it.
I've been in a position, you're saying homeless people, you give money to homeless people.
And more, even when I don't have money. So like money to me, while I do want to make it, I don't know. It's just not the end all be all for me, but my life has revolved around it.
Right.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a big believer in, I talk about manifestation all the time, but I think that women don't talk about money. It's almost shameful to talk about it.
Right.
I love making money.
Mm-hmm.
I get a high from making money, but it's not because I want to buy Prada bags. It's because I want freedom. And I want the choice to be able to get the things that I need for my family. And I also came from immigrants. My parents were South African, came to Australia, couldn't take any money out of the country. And I watched my dad hustle and he did that, And so I respect money. I always think it's going to come in. And there is a mindset that if you believe in manifestation and the law of attraction, that if you look at a bill and you're always like, oh, why do bills always come to me? The bills will always come to you. But if you look at bills of like, you almost can switch it and say, wow, I just got paid, which is the bill, but you're like, oh, I just got $2,000 instead of that was a $2,000 bill. You're then telling the universe that you're open, you're attracting money. And I've seen crazy things happen in my life with money to the point where I've been in a situation where like years and years and years ago where I was like, I don't know when I'm going to pay, how I'm going to pay my next bill. And I got a $70,000 residual check from a TV, from something I did in Australia that like, was holding all these residuals for 10 years that I didn't know about. And it came literally the day before I needed it. I've had situations where I was like, oh my goodness, I've gone over in the bank. Like, what am I going to do? And then I get a check for the exact amount that I've gone over in the bank.
Right. Yeah. I what I've learned from you is like you've sort of like studied money and how to make it work for you. And that's fascinating. Something that I am so looking forward to learning from you. Cause yeah, I feel like you're creating this like constantly spinning like sphere around you of like residual income.
But yeah, no one, for people to stay not making money, that they don't teach in schools like how to make your money grow. If you have $1 and you put it into a stock or you put it into a bank account that you can't touch, all of a sudden that dollar is making another dollar. And you're like, money starts to build on itself and you start actually making money that it's just because your money's actually working.
Right.
Instead of people go, oh, I'm going to go buy this and I'm going to do this. Still have your vacations. But if your money's not sitting there working for you and your investments aren't growing, then you're always going to be frustrated because, your money's just sitting there. It's not going anywhere.
Right.
Anyway,
Right.
but yeah, Hannah's mom, I think, is probably in a bit of a cycle with it.
Also, Laura Layton.
So cute.
Stunning.
Yeah.
Acting just like you are the woman I want to be when I grow up. Laura Layton, you are just so lovely.
Yeah. So lovely.
Just so beautiful and delicate and so strong in this like single mother type of deal, and yet still so
believe it,
vulnerable.
too.
Oh gosh,
I so believe it.
Same. And then I like this little thing from Hannah, just a little bit more vulnerability. I continue to just love Ashley Benson.
I know in the show.
Love Hannah. I mean, I love to see this little thing in her. Just this little
broken,
vulnerable underbelly. I like seeing that she has to, like get Lucas to. That's an interesting little thing happening there.
I know, and it also for me is a little triggering because I was the Lucas. I was the person that no one thought was sort of worthy when I was younger. So I get that he's like, oh, I like you, but it's like that unrequited love.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I see myself in him a little bit, and I think he's great.
I had
so well cast. Like he's just well cast. I think he's a great actor. I think his scenes are believable.
I agree. I had no idea sort of the firecracker moment he comes in on about in the real love waits. This is not the kind of girl I'm going to be turning down. Trust me.
Exactly.
He comes in with such this silly little thing. I feel like I also only got to see characters for like this little view. So I always saw him as like this anxious, nerdy, you know what I mean? But he comes in as such an interesting way.
I like him. He's got this gravitas, and this sort of fire in him. And yeah, like I'm sure he was. I always wonder what it's like to play a character where you're kind of told that you're a certain thing,
right?
And you look a certain way, and that to me always, I wonder like how that speaks to his psyche and his sort of self-worth.
Mm-hmm.
Like by actually saying, I'm not worthy of people, I'm not good enough, I don't look a certain way, I'm like...
And then you book it, and that's just further validation.
And you're like, I really
am.
I really am. I used to hang out with him a lot, actually. I went to coffee with him out of set and stuff like that. He's like a really good guy.
Yeah. Yeah, I always got good vibes from him.
And also, what do you think about the memorial where we all had to give our little...
The little speeches.
The little speeches.
Okay, so this is one story that I remember from Shay early on was that there was a little she obviously had the least experience of all of the four girls already. Like Ashley and Lucy were veterans. Troyan went to film school and she's also, daughter of a big producer.
Yep.
And Shay was like just this girl, right? And
wasn't she modeling first?
Yeah. Not that she was just this girl, but like she was modeling. She did other things, and she was from Canada. She came here, and so she is getting up there to do her speech on that episode. And I guess she might have been having a little trouble, or the way she was presenting it, or this, that, or other. And she's like, they were laughing, like they were full on laughing while I was up there trying to give my speech and do my thing. And that's when I remember I wrote her an email, high on cocaine, and said, look, we need more energy like you in the business. Like you are open and you like, it's not all on here. Like your energy is great and they're really lucky to have you there. And here's my acting coach, who's my mentor.
Yeah.
If you'd ever, you know what I mean, want to be a part of that. She was like, thank you so much. Ended up going and doing her own thing, but she is so strong. She was never, intimidated by any of that, and I feel like it's because she started acting in her 20s.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. She knew who she was. She was like, psh, they were all like laughing, like, psh. And she didn't hold a resentment like towards them, maybe like internally or whatever. But she still worked with them professionally. She didn't think anything less of herself.
Right. Do you think it might have been lost in translation? Because sometimes everyone got the giggles. I obviously didn't because I wasn't sitting around anyone. But like we get the giggles.
Right.
Do you think it could have been an accidental coincidence, or do you think it was very directed?
Here's the thing. I think that I don't think it was directed, but I also don't think that there was a whole bunch of compassion
Right.
either. I
Right.
think Lucy and Ashley are laughing because this is, first of all, Ashley laughs at the most inappropriate things always.
Yeah, she's great.
Like she literally is like, no, I'm not laughing at you while being in a full belly laugh at you.
Yeah.
You know? So I think, yeah, that she just had to learn how to deal with these sort of like catty personalities.
And maybe it was also that, again, 21, a lot of success, beauty, sexuality. I don't know. Maybe it was just sort of part of it.
Yeah.
Like Sasha was saying, I think that we got out
Pretty unscathed.
pretty unscathed compared to how it can be.
Right. And you think like at a certain point, you're putting all 4 of these girls as the lead, right? So you're putting them in PR overlapping opportunities all the time. I remember there was like a campaign that only Lucy and Ashley did. Remember that? Like,
Yeah, I didn't know any of that.
Bongo, big
right,
blow.
right.
I don't know.
Big blow.
I just remember that being a little bit of the undertone of sometimes when I was sitting with them on the first season, what that would be. But that
And
petered out.
imagine what it would be like being a lead, but having 3 other leads. Because you and I have either been a lead or like more of an ancillary character. I've never been a lead with someone else unless it was a guy.
Right.
It was like,
On 10 Things I Hate About You, that was a lead. Yeah, I guess with Ned's
you were
though,
the
it
female
was 2
lead.
guys. Yeah.
and it was 2 guys.
Yeah.
But imagine having 3 other girls as the same lead, getting the same amount of airtime, same amount of things, and you're young. I mean, I think everyone handled it as well as they could. I think having everyone back on set now at the age that we are, it would be ridiculous to be making fun.
Yeah.
Right? It'd just be
Yeah.
like, really? Aren't we old now?
Yeah. But at that moment, like you think it's so scarce, or you think
yeah.
like this is the magazine cover that is going to like, you know what I mean?
And back then, all that stuff, did you ever get paid? I used to get paid, oh my gosh. I don't even know if I should say this, but back in the day at Us Weekly, there would be companies that would pay you cash, $10,000 cash, and then they would take a paparazzi quote unquote picture of you holding the bag, walking across the street, and then the photographer would sell that image to Us Weekly for $15,000, and they've paid you $10,000 cash, and the photographer would make $5,000. And that shit happened. I remember back in the day, I was doing so much of that stuff. I'm sure the girls were too. It was just all cash. And the magazines don't work like that. That was like the whole, Heidi and Spencer,
Right.
all that kind of Laguna Beach stuff. And you can tell, like when you look at a magazine, you can tell if someone's been set up and like they're carrying something and they're like showing the bag or the outfit or whatever. But companies would do that. And I kind of understand they want their stuff in the magazine.
Right.
And what better than have it on some kind of celebrity, right?
Right.
But that stuff was happening all the time. I bet they made bank on that. Yeah.
Jeez.
Cash.
I have never been aware that there's any other source to make money. In fact,
Yeah.
I thought everybody else in the world worked for free. Like what? I was like,
Yeah.
this is my one stream of income. Like,
And it would be so cool because you just get like they just hand you some cash and you just walk across the road. And that's why all those, Misha Barton and back then, that's why they were making so much money. And then it's just all disposable income. So you're just like, okay, I'll buy some shoes. Like you don't have kids. You don't have like a mortgage. You're just
Right.
like, cash.
yeah.
Yeah.
Cash. Going to
Cash.
strip club.
Well, Lindsey.
Have you ever been to a strip club?
I have.
Yeah. And
Fine.
how was the smell?
Like old beer
That was it?
and money
That was it?
and cocaine.
And vagina. Right. Absolutely. Was it a nice strip club or one of those that like the girls had to get tested every
I actually
week?
only went once, and I went after my husband. I think it was a first date I had with my husband, and I was drinking, and I was like, let's just do this to have fun. It's not that I don't listen. I've had my sexual moments when I was younger and did all that kind of stuff, and I think I just didn't like him looking at other people.
Right.
I still have a little bit of that jealousy thing.
Yeah.
I still do to this day. Like, I don't want him to look at other people's boobs and go, ooh. Then I'm thinking, oh God, my boobs.
Are so nice.
Thanks.
I've seen what's under those sweaters that you hide them underneath.
I'm only wearing this sweater because it's fucking freezing in here. like Iceland.
This is doable for me. I'm not too hot.
December 15th, Iceland.
Yeah,
freezing.
We can't all have functioning nervous systems. Damn it.
or nice little perky. I mean, they're not perky boobs
Yes,
anymore.
they are. I've seen you outline it, and it's great.
I have a bra on.
All right, you have to show me without your bra.
Yeah. All right. And you'll be like, they're real down to your legs.
You know who's waiting for us? Joseph Scott Morgan. We have our favorite eternal guest, Joseph Scott Morgan
on the show, who is a forensic scientist, a former death investigator. He's done 200 episodes of his show Body Bags on iHeart, and he's here today to talk to a little old us.
And he does an incredible Elvis impersonation. Ask him in person if you see him. He loves doing it on the spot.
Just do one.
Whoa, mama.
One more time for the people in the back.
Oh, baby. I can't. I'm too. Yeah.
Oh, I felt that from here, Joseph.
I don't know why it was oh mama and oh baby.
Oh my gosh.
Yes.
That was great.
I'm
glad I got this ice pack.
Oh, now she's going.
Only fools rush in. There we go.
See, now you give a little bit and people just go with it.
Gosh, I love it.
You give You give a little lead and they go. So Lindsey was asking me a question off camera because she really wanted to ask you something about people.
You said in one of our previous episodes how you sort of said something about like reserving judgment for the perpetrators of these crimes or like for anything that the victim. You just had this way of like, we were talking about people who were on trial or whatever. You just had like no judgment. Somehow you're not able, even after you see these actions, to like associate that with the person. Are you able to really separate action and person? And how do you keep from judging people? Because you seem like a very unbiased person. You know what I mean? Like you don't seem jaded by it. Yeah.
That's high praise. I tried. That's one of the things I've tried to do as a forensic scientist. All forensic scientists should be that way. It's a goal that we strive for. I'm neither pro-prosecution or pro-defense. You know, if I'm involved in a case in the medical legal world, in my world, we need to be right down the middle. And I'm not, a lot of people beat their chest and talk about, we're going to seek justice. Well, justice is kind of this nebulous thing that you never really get an answer to. It's kind of like saying why. I hate the word why because you never really get a sufficient answer. I like to be kind of grounded and rooted in science. What, where, when, how, those sorts of things. And so you never know how anything is going to kind of spin out, and you certainly can't predict it in court. When we assess something scientifically in the forensic science community, we try to look at it from an unbiased perspective. Now, I can speak particularly in my area in the medical legal world, coroners and medical examiners. We try to keep it right down the middle of the road. And that way, because there's many times we'll disagree with a DA or with law enforcement, with detectives. We won't see eye to eye with them on cases many times, and they get flustered, they get aggravated with us, and that's okay. It's all right to have disagreements and to, but you're going to have to prove it to us in our community. You're going to have to prove it to us logically and scientifically, and then you just kind of let the cards fall where they may. Some things on their surface might seem obvious. Okay, you've got somebody that has been injured; they've got multiple injuries. You have to look at it and go beyond, the kind of pat answer where you're going to say, well, wow, this is obviously what happened. And you can't prejudice yourself that way. And I got a great example of this. One of my heroes in forensics is a guy named, and I recommend anybody, if you really want to check out an couple of interesting books. They're not, they're not like heavy on clinical language. But it's a guy named Dr. Tom Noguchi. And Dr. Noguchi was the chief medical examiner coroner for LA County. He's the guy that did the autopsies on Belushi and on Sharon Tate and on Marilyn Monroe and Bobby Kennedy. And the list just goes on and on. He was actually known as the coroner to the stars for a while. But he wrote a book that was called Coroner at Large, I think was the name of it. And in that little book, I read a line from him that always stuck with me. He said that, and he applied this to the Tate LaBianca homicides. He was actually at the murders, where Sharon Tate was killed. And it was so gruesome, it was so bloody. And he said, as a young man, he came to a conclusion that he did not need to look at the body when he arrived at the scene as the first stop along the examination. And so to keep himself free mentally, he would always stare at the ceiling when he walked into a room, and it would keep him unbiased. And so what he meant by that is that if you stare at the body and you get so fixated on the body, your mind is no longer open to any other possibilities. And so for him, it's almost like the Zen of death investigation. For him, when he began to walk into a crime scene, his eyes would immediately go up, and he would check for evidence on the ceiling. The body would always be there. That is, until, of course, it was released from the scene. But he would look at all of the surfaces surrounding the body and in the room or in the space before he ever made it to the body. And that's a huge tell for him. And it's a huge tell. It was influential for me because it grounded me, and it helped me to keep my mind open to any kind of possibility that was at the scene. I was not, because so many people will walk onto a scene, and it's human nature. You see this horrible butchery that's taking place in front of you, and you can't avert your eyes. It's very difficult, and it takes a while to get past that, to be able to look past the horror that's being displayed before you. But if you can cross that boundary in your mind and begin to look in other spaces before you turn your eyes toward the body, it kind of keeps your mind clear. It worked for me.
How much do you believe in like a policeman's hunch or your own hunch as like versus science? Like, how do you reconcile science and intuition? Do you think that they're both valuable in solving a case?
There can be a marriage there.
Right.
For me, I think one of the things that I try to do is, and you can only do this when you get some experience. I would imagine that acting's a lot like this as well. You can be intuitive. I think you guys talk about acting, and you kind of got people that are intuitive actors. But that takes time to get to that point when you get past the mechanical, For us, I would have to rely, as I got older in the field, I would rely on my experiences. And you can use the term hunch or intuition, but a lot of it has to do with experience and those things that you've seen. Early on, you have to ride with your training wheels on. You have to purely rely on the science. And if something, because you don't have enough experience as a young investigator to rely on a gut feeling. And gut feelings can betray you as well. Because those things that you might look at and you want to pass judgment on, it shuts down your ability to have clarity in that moment. And you can look at somebody and perhaps say, well, they're obviously a suspect, or they obviously had something to do with this. And that very well might be the case. However, I don't know about you guys, but if I was in a position, and let's just say it's a familial homicide where you have a family homicide that's occurred, I don't know about you guys, but if I was, in a family situation, I had one of my loved ones killed, I can't tell you what my affect would be like, or how I would behave toward others. I might be mean as a damn hornet, or I might become catatonic. So just because I'm giving you that impression as an investigator doesn't necessarily mean that's who I am, and it certainly doesn't mean that I'm guilty of anything. It just means that I'm trying to deal with everything that I'm taking in this environment. So you have to be very, very careful before you I had to be very, very careful before I could get to that level. And still my default position would always be science, because I didn't trust myself that much. Every now and then I'd get a suspicion about things, and I'd explore it a little bit based upon experience, but I'd always try to default to the science.
Wow. Do you ever practice your intuition in real life? Like by being like, oh, I bet there are like, I don't know.
Yeah, as a dad of teenagers.
Oh, yeah.
There you go. What you're hiding in your room.
I'm no longer a dad of teenagers anymore, but yeah, I had some intuitions relative to that. I think that some of my body language training, comes into play sometimes if I'm dealing with students, to try to see if they're deceiving me about something, if they're lying to me about something. And there's not too many opportunities for that to happen. Because, it's kind of black and white most of the time if you're dealing with students. I've got a full class load that I teach, and I have to deal with students every single day and their problems that they're experiencing in their own personal lives. And they bring that in the classroom, and they'll provide excuses as to why they missed an assignment or why they did poorly on a test or something. I don't have time to sit there and interview each and every one of them. But sometimes, after you've been doing it, because I've been teaching now at college level for 20 years, I begin to see students, and I'm around students, and I begin to think, I've heard this tale before.
Yeah.
It's like, how many grandparents do you have and how many have died?
Right.
Because I keep, I'll get the same student will say, well, I've got a dead grandmother, and it's like, well, my other grandmother died. Now my grandfather's died, and it might happen all in one semester. And sometimes I guess that does happen, but lightning strikes people too as well. And so you begin to think about, well, are they trying to pull the wool over my eyes? Are they trying to get over on me and not pull their weight relative to colleagues in their classroom that are working really hard? So I think in that set of circumstances, I can rely on some of my skill set, but my skill set's rusty compared to what it used to be.
Well, thank you so much for coming on the show today. Next week, we're going to talk about some famous cases. So get ready to give us.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I won't hijack. I keep hijacking you for these.
That's okay. You can hijack.
I'm gonna let her run
it was
with
the Elvis. It was the Elvis impression that just did it for you. So you just were
Joe
like
Scott.
in like Flynn.
I can't believe you didn't lead with that impression. Like you waited until we've known you for a good while to bring it out.
warming us up.
That's a class act.
Hey, just like Pretty Little Liars, there's little secrets around every corner.
You betcha, baby.
Oh, that is our episode for today. Please don't forget to follow us so that we can keep bringing you this awesome show. See you next week, bitches.